It's time for the Charlotte FC podcast. Hello, Charlotte FC family. Nick Finelli here, and welcome back to the Charlotte FC podcast. Today's episode is a special one because we're doing a crossover with our sister podcast, Side Story Sports, where we dive into behind-the-scenes moments of the people who make things happen, very similar to what we do at Charlotte FC, but outside of the Charlotte FC ecosystem. Well, we're thrilled to welcome back Joe LaBue, who was the Charlotte FC president for the first 3 years and played a pivotal role in shaping the club from the ground up. Since then, Joe has transitioned on to the University of Maryland, where he now serves as the Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Revenue Officer. Welcome back to Side Story Sports. I'm your host, Nick Finelli, and today we're sitting down with someone who's helped shape some of the biggest sports organizations in the country. From the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers to being part of the launch of Charlotte FC, and now stepping into a new challenge as Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Revenue Officer at the University of Maryland. Joe LaBue has seen it all. We talk about career pivots, lessons learned, leadership in sports, and what it means to make the hard calls when the spotlight is on. This one is packed with good stories and insights you won't want to miss.
Nick, good afternoon. I appreciate you having me on. Joe LaBue. I am currently the Deputy Athletic Director, Chief Revenue Officer at my alma mater, University of Maryland. I have been in professional sports for over 20 years, so we're approaching 2 months into my first dip into the collegiate space, and it's been a blast. So it's great to connect with you again.
Awesome. So, of course, you talked about your long career in pro sports, working at Monumental Sports, which is up there, Caps, Wizards, Mystics, them. You worked for the Commanders. You came to Charlotte, lived for 14 years, worked for the Panthers, and then kind of headed up the startup called Charlotte FC.
Yeah.
So tell us about the decision to return back to Maryland and what led to that moment, and what did it feel like to step back into the college thing? Because I know college is different these days. It's just as big as far as everything that you're doing on the business side than running a franchise in professional sports. I know that, but there are different things.
Yeah, no, it was an intentional decision. It's one of these things where I found myself at a crossroads in my career trying to figure out what was next after Charlotte FC. And that was the most enjoyable 4 to 5 years of my life, being involved in the conception of that team through its first 3 seasons on the pitch. And that was going to be a tremendous void to fill. So I sat back and I wanted to go somewhere meaningful. I didn't really know Charlotte FC was going to be as meaningful as it is and always will be to me. And I think the child in me, the typical person getting into sports because they love sports type, led me to pursue an opportunity like Maryland. I grew up in Western New York, so there was some potential opportunities to go up there and maybe work for a team where it's in your DNA already. You're really excited about it. You take all the experiences you have, the relationships you have, the network you have, and you pour gasoline on that fire by just having sort of a built-in passion. It's kind of where Maryland came into play. So really, I took some time and started diving into the evolution of the college space, just with the introduction of NIL, and then eventually where we landed with the house settlement and revenue sharing becoming a real part of roster management. Right. There's a need to be commercially minded in this part of the sports industry. Not that there never was before, but there is more of a need. I mean, you're seeing the successful universities that will figure it out, and right now it's a bit of the wild, wild west, and nobody really has all of the answers yet. But the ones that will figure it out, you're going to see it translate on the field. You're going to see it translate on the court. And the cool part about college athletics too, which is a little bit different than the professional side, is Charlotte FC was cool because we had a first team, a second team, and 4 academy teams. So it wasn't just about the first team. It was always like, sort of the iceberg to me. People saw what was above the surface, but they didn't really
Hmm.
understand what was underneath, and the machine that drives an MLS club or any soccer club for that matter. Here at Maryland, we've got 20 varsity sports.
Right.
There is no shortage of things to do, ideas to come up with, solutions that are needed, from track and field to volleyball to men's basketball, women's basketball, field hockey, lacrosse. I mean, there's so much. And the great part about Maryland is we're competitive in everything.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I also in college sports and having so many different sports themselves, you have facilities for all of these. They have to be paid for. You have to have top notch for
that's
that.
right.
And that they're all specialties too. So it's almost like you have a ton of mini Charlotte FCs in a way.
It's exactly right. I mean, you just put it. I mean, that's exactly what's going through my head every single day. We just opened up one of the nicest facilities for any sport, let alone, I mean, college basketball. We just opened it up. You can see it online. It's the Barry P. Gossett Basketball Performance Center. It is breathtaking. It is
Hmm.
unbelievable. If I'm a 17 or 18-year-old, why wouldn't I want to come to Maryland to be in this facility every single day? But you see the resources and the investment that the university and this ecosystem is putting into that program. And right across the street, our offices are at Xfinity Center, the basketball arena, but across the parking lot has got to be one of the nicest facilities, if not the nicest facility in the country, for our field hockey program and our women's lacrosse program.
Hmm.
And you want to walk into a facility that all you need to do is walk in the front door, and you probably want to come play here. You just see the national championship trophies that are just stacked in there between those two programs. It is absolutely amazing what Missy and Kathy have been able to do for us in this university. So yeah, with those facilities comes a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of day-to-day things to figure out.
Hmm.
The way I'm thinking, like we did it in Charlotte, was like, how do we use these outside of the normal training
Right.
ground? And
Hmm.
the reason it was really built. I mean, are there opportunities to activate and utilize, whether it's introducing youth in the area to these sports, or getting them on campus, or bringing alum back to Maryland and showing them how this place has evolved? It's really cool. So no shortage of those conversations, and it's amazing. Your mind can get lost, and you can almost get ahead of yourself too much. So I think prioritizing things it's been a real challenge the first probably 2 months here. I want to run before walking or crawling.
Right. Has NIL just changed literally the whole landscape and you guys have player sharing there? Or
Mhm.
so has that really changed how you even approach everything from funding for facilities to how you go about marketing to how you go about culture to how you go about coaches? I mean, just I can imagine it just opens up a door that wasn't even thought of before.
Yeah, I think it was, look, people wanted to play in front of full arenas and full stadiums. I don't think that's changed. I think what's different now is, I think when you talked about being commercially minded or revenue driven in college sports, it was probably a bit taboo.
Hmm.
You're just it's there. The college game is different. It's student athletes, it's century tradition. It's not professional sports. It's not professionalized, people would say.
Hmm.
Where now it's very similar. And I think the playing field is actually leveling out more than people would probably argue. I think there's the narrative out there that it's going to completely be the haves and the have-nots. Where I think now there's more schools that can compete. I get the Power Four versus the rest of the schools,
Hmm.
those that have opted in to revenue sharing and can really make an impact there, that have the resources, can drive revenue. But with NIL, I think what that's done, it's really given athletes the platform to really mature and to benefit. NIL sits outside of revenue sharing.
Hmm.
I think the common misconception is they're one and the same. It's not. I mean, the $20.5 million that goes towards your sort of roster makeup
Hmm.
comes from local revenues coming in, tickets, partnerships, all the things that you and I have talked about in the past
Right.
that are professional. NIL is something that a student athlete can partner with a brand and form a business relationship in that regard. And it's
Hmm.
additive. It's on top of
Right. And it's not necessarily, it's just benefiting the person, not
right.
necessarily the organization.
That's right. So where the university comes into play is sort of bridging these relationships.
Right.
It's making the introductions. It's making sure that we know our student athletes and we can go and canvas the marketplace both locally and nationally for companies that want to utilize really smart, really charismatic, really talented people to drive eyeballs and
Right.
be a resource for them to help grow their businesses. It's really smart, and I'm amazed with the platforms that these student athletes have and just how mature they are when it comes to this too. So it's still it's a very new space, and people are trying to figure out how to play within it. But it's been a lot of fun to get to be a part of it.
Cool. So let's go backwards a little bit. Can you take us back to a moment in your career, maybe that you kind of completely shifted your perspective on just working in sports and being like changing your outlook on, okay, this is what it's about. This is what I have to do. You may have had like a not necessarily a misconception, but just like this is my understanding, but wow, this totally changes how I think about things.
It's a really good question. I've been asked something similar in the past. The one advice I would sort of use this as an advice to somebody who's trying to figure out their path. They know they want to be in the industry, and everybody has a different path. So don't take this as the key to success. But for me, it was really interesting. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was here at Maryland. I stumbled upon an internship with the Commanders and got thrown into the corporate hospitality world where I was selling corporate hospitality packages, game day packages, groups of 20 for people that wanted to come out and watch the team play. And it was one of these all-inclusive. You got 20 tickets, you had a pregame tent.
Mm-hmm.
Something is very common across sports. And that was really my senior year here. I did it. I worked probably 30 or 40 hours a week doing that. And upon graduation, they didn't have a full-time role there. I ended up working in the ticket office and ticket operations. The best advice I got there was you're going to get to know every nook and cranny of this organization. You're going to get to know everybody because everybody wants to know the ticketing people and take advantage of it. Because start figuring out what these people do. It'll help put you on a path. I did that for a little bit, eventually got my way back into sales. I felt like that was my calling was ticket sales. And a lot of people use ticketing as sort of a launching pad to going into partnership sales, for example, sponsorship. And everyone wants to be in sponsorship. And I thought I wanted to do that too. And I jumped into the partnership world with Monumental, as you mentioned. I was fortunate enough to be there when I was just the Washington Capitals, and I became Monumental while I was there, which was amazing. I went from selling just hockey and the Mystics to all of a sudden now the building and the Wizards and all the events coming through the nation's capital. And I enjoyed corporate partnerships, but I think a common misconception is how important ticketing is. So you talk about that point in my career where I was like, you know what would probably help excel me is getting back into ticketing. And that's when I took the job in Carolina with the Panthers back in 2011. I think a lot of people felt like that may have been a step back for me because I was in corporate partnerships in DC, multi-property, but I took a sales manager role in 2011 with the Carolina Panthers. But if you look at revenues and how teams operate, you've got media rights, which is your biggest thing. So take the NFL, for example. Teams are getting a $400 million check from the TV deal every single year.
Right.
Next in line is ticketing. I mean, most NFL teams, you're over $100 million a year in ticket revenue. Most partnerships are probably in the 60, 70, 80 million. So while partnerships has, the cachet,
Yeah.
people want to see the big brands. It's a necessity and it's very important. At the core of it, ticketing drives dollars, ticketing drives engagement. Ticketing is the foundational piece of everything. I mean, it's why we do what we do. We want people to come to games. It's in the spirit of professional sports. I mean, people want to go see their heroes.
Right. If they're not there, then
Yeah, you want to
people
build
don't want to be there.
yeah, you want to build these core memories, and you can do that sitting at home and watching with your parents. And I've got plenty of those memories myself. But I think getting back into the ticketing world, Nick, I think that was such a big piece for me there, and I was glad I had the partnership experience. But sort of as my career went on, the biggest piece of Charlotte FC and how it was going to succeed in that market was how are you going to fill a NFL-sized stadium with soccer fans in the South
17 times a year.
Yeah, you needed to figure out the ticketing part. And those doors are always open. So I think for me, it was really important. And I was fortunate enough to work with some really great people with the Panthers. They were coming off a tough season in 2010, 2-14. And we're fortunate that Cam Newton came walking through the door. And it was such a great run and such a blessing to be a part of that organization for as long as I was in Charlotte.
That's pretty cool. Now, some of the choices and the things you make, you may have made like an easy choice rather than the right choice. Or maybe you've gone through and thought about something. You're like, you know what? I'm going to do this even though everybody else is saying I shouldn't, because it's the right thing to do. And ultimately, in the long run, it's going to be better for this organization. Do you have an example that you could share?
I don't think we have enough time. Several. One that comes to mind, just because I think it was a September, so there's got to be some anniversary to it. Maybe it was a 2-year anniversary to it, or maybe it was last year. Major League Soccer, we tried our best to predict sort of the unpredictable. And you're looking at all 17 matches and you're trying to figure out what we need to do to fill up this stadium for each of these matches. Well, as part of the Apple TV agreement, our second year, we went from a year one, and you probably remember we had a number of afternoon matches and during our first year. As part of the Apple deal, there was a very strict 7:30 kickoff on Saturday night. There was a few outliers, but most of your home games were going to be 7:30 on Saturday nights. And for us as a new franchise, we felt like we were missing the opportunity to grab young families. The 7:30s on Saturday night were a bit difficult, particularly when school was going on. Summer, it was a little bit easier, it was lighter out later. And we started seeing the league was a little bit lenient with some of the clubs, and they started having some matches move to the afternoon. So we felt like, let's go after this. Let's be proactive and go to the league and get a game moved to the afternoon. So the schedule came out. We had all 7:30 matches on Saturdays. We took a look at it and we identified an opportunity to move a game against the New England Revolution to an afternoon game. It was a September game. And I'll never forget having to go to the leadership and say, look, this is an opportunity for us. I feel like we can get a ton of kids and families, and this was what people are asking for. And they said, fine, do some diligence on it. We looked up things like, what's the average temperature in Charlotte on a Saturday in September? And it was 70s. It looked comfortable. We didn't want to put our club in a situation where they were playing in a sunny, hot day on that artificial surface there.
Right.
There goes your competitive advantage. It's going right out the door. You're doing it yourselves, self-inflicted. So we looked into that. We went to the league. We sent several emails to them, and we're really, really hoping that they would side with us. Brian Biello in New England and those guys were supportive, and they're like, okay, we're in if they're in. Well, we ended up getting the game moved, and we were really, really excited about it. We thought it would be a huge hit. And honestly, Nick, it fell flat in terms of ticket sales. And then just the insult to injury, it was like 85 and humid that day. And I remember sitting in the stands going like, God, like Murphy's Law, man, like, you know.
Right.
But my takeaway from it was I would do it over again because we felt like it was the right thing to do. You know, I felt like we moved mountains. We were making a decision that we felt like was going to benefit the club and benefit the fans. I mean, we were thinking about the 5 and 6 year olds that weren't going to those Saturday night games. And I am confident that a 5 or 6 year old was at that game, and it was a core memory game. We ended up winning the game 2-0. I remember that. So it was worth everyone's time and effort from that standpoint. But at the same time, when you think you've got everything figured out, sometimes you don't. And that's part of the deal. And I'm not embarrassed to tell that story. And I wasn't embarrassed to apologize and tell people, what, maybe we were wrong.
Hmm.
To apologize for doing it. And now we've got a data point moving forward. So,
Right. Yeah, you just can use that for the next time.
that's right.
So, what is one of the hardest things that you've had to do in any of your positions? Is it dealing with people? Is it
Yeah.
is it more of just decision making? Is it data? Is it getting information?
Yeah, I think like in any industry, this is such a fast-paced industry. And it's one of these things that people care about sports. They care about their teams. It's very emotional.
Hmm.
People feel attached, and that's a good thing. And it also could be a bad thing when you make the wrong decisions. And I think learning how to manage up and manage down, there's a skill set there that whether you're reporting directly to an owner or you're reporting to a VP, wherever you fall in line, it's always easy to come up with a plan and try to hold people accountable and manage numbers. And the best leaders out there know how to do that well. But I think the elite leaders also understand how to manage up and lead up. So, what information needs to get shared, when and how,
Hmm.
and being able to identify all of the benefits and all the potential risks that come with decisions. When you're dealing with legal and you're dealing with HR, and you have to think about the local media, local, national, just impact of all decisions. And I think that's the hardest part of being in this world, because you just can't hide from tough decisions and potential self-inflicted PR crisis.
Right.
People talking about you on the news and all those sorts of things. You have to understand too how that impacts an entire organization and people you have working for you and with you. And that's a lot of weight on people's shoulders, because it's impossible to sort of leave your work behind when you're in our world, because
Right.
people always want to talk about it.
Now, do you have, when you're making these decisions, because you, of course, like you said, there's always these hard decisions, but are you seeing every path through? It's almost like, okay, if we go this way, here's what possibly could happen. If one of these goes awry, these are the things we have to be ready with. Are those just part of the whole gamut?
Absolutely. And depending on the situation, Nick, you got to figure this stuff out on the fly. Not very often are you afforded time to really vet everything.
Hmm.
But you've got to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And that's when you're on emails and calls at all hours of the night and things like that. It's not a great part of the industry. It's a necessary evil of it. And you want to be respectful of people's time and their lives and things like that too.
Right.
So it's a lot to balance. But yeah, you need to be able to take calculated risks with certain decisions, and then also mitigate a lot of potential pitfalls when you make decisions on things. And I don't want to make it sound like everything's doom and gloom, but like that's a very real part of this industry that a lot of people don't see, because rightfully so, people can be very critical
Right.
in our world, and that's okay. That's why there's never apathy. Apathy doesn't exist in sports. People like to think it does, and people are like, "Oh, this organization's fan base is apathetic." No, they're just mad.
Right.
They're just going to be uber critical,
Right.
and that's okay. That's fine as long as
And
you
part of that criticism is maybe not showing up for a match or buying tickets. But
exactly. And
as
that's
soon as
okay.
the team's doing well or something turns around in their head about a feeling, the stadium's full.
That's right. And it's not just winning.
Right.
Sometimes it's decisions made. It's pricing decisions or offering, or you can fix a parking issue, or you do goodwill through community service. And people are like, you know what, I want to back this team. I'm back
Yeah.
thick and thin. It's very important.
I always felt like Charlotte FC had a kind of college-like atmosphere. So I'm sure kind of the moving over and in that area is like, oh yeah, I understand this feeling, like this affinity, and just always like I'm rooting for you no matter what kind of thing.
I think you're right. I mean, that was the beauty of Charlotte FC, and it's not unique to Charlotte FC, but it's very special there. And that was intentional too. We wanted to make sure that the people that support us from day one felt valued and felt like their voices were heard and always will be heard there.
Right.
And when you do that from day one, I mentioned it earlier, and it's in your DNA. It's woven into your
Hmm.
day to day, and that can be said with college athletics. There's something just special about it because the school means more to people than just how the basketball team is doing or how the lacrosse team is doing or how the women's
Right.
soccer team is doing. It's really important. That's something to always talk about. That's a huge sense of pride for people, but the school is really important too for a lot of reasons. So people just love their school. It's part of their identity. And whether they grew up in the state or they attended here, or their mom and dad went here, whatever it
Hmm.
was. And it's great. I mean, you get that feeling walking on campus. You're part of something much bigger than just the athletic department.
Yeah. When you first started your career, you said your dad gave you some advice, and this was around when the Commanders were sold and new regime came in. And I think he said something like, figure out who the people are that stayed.
Yeah.
And then, so has, besides that nugget there from your dad, is there a mentor or a friend or someone that you've kind of like always kept in touch with, but like use that to kind of be your sounding board and be like, hey, what do you think about this? We got this decision going on, because they're probably either parallel with your career or maybe did something before you. Do you have somebody like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's several people in different walks of the industry. Everybody's got their sort of phone a friend. I've got one in Doug Smoyer's his name. Doug's a good friend of mine. Doug was selling tickets for the Commanders when I was there, and his path sort of skyrocketed in the corporate partnerships world. And he was a guy that always wanted to work in the NFL, and he's a guy that made it happen. And I always felt like this guy just had a plan and went after it. And he's always been a huge sounding board for me, and I've always appreciated that. There's people like Phil Yahtzee who hired me at the Panthers. Um, he's a good friend and a mentor. Working in life.
Hmm.
Very great balance of a guy that coached his kids in baseball.
Right.
And anytime you talk to him, he wanted to talk about his kids playing baseball or
Right.
him playing
Not
college.
the business. Yeah.
And it was at the time, I didn't realize it until my family started getting older and my kids started playing sports. And it was just so refreshing to know I had someone in my life like that. And he's always stayed in touch. Danny Morrison's another one. Danny's been so successful, but if you talk to anybody about Danny Morrison, they just talk about him as a person and how great of a human he is. It's not all of the things he's done, from being the president of the Panthers to holding the AD role at TCU to what he's done at the Charlotte Sports Foundation or teaching classes at South Carolina. He's
Hmm.
just that's the reputation I would love to leave behind. I just want people to feel like I brought a lot as a human being to where I was, and the impact you leave behind in terms of the bottom line or areas you built out in a stadium. The work you've done is great, but it's that lasting impact and reputation. That's something that my family could be proud of, or people that have helped me along the way are proud of the person and the reputation I've built. So those are just a few of the mentors. There's so many more that I can talk about, but it's a great industry, Nick. There's so many
Hmm.
good people, so many good people, and there's people that understand what we go through because it is a very unique industry.
Yeah.
So to have that brother and sisterhood of people is just really, really cool.
Nice. Now, is there a moment in your career, good or bad, that kind of still gives you these chills? Like, just like, wow, I just remember this so vividly.
Yeah, I mean, opening night Charlotte FC. I mean, it'll the hair still stands up on the back of my neck there. I mean, breaking the attendance record. And that was something that was so rewarding because we told people we were going to do it. We were not bashful about it. We leaned into it. And to make it happen and to have the national anthem go the way it went, to become viral, that's still a tradition that's going to live
Hmm.
on long beyond my time, was really, really special. And it was such a great moment that I'll never forget. And just how the city rallied around that team and how people fell in love with soccer that night. A lot of people that didn't
Hmm.
know the game, didn't care for the game, didn't just wanted to go because it was seemed like it was going to be a big deal, and they've become diehards, and their kids are playing, and
Right.
all the things you could ever want, Nick, all happened that night. So I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Speaking of rituals, do you have some sort of ritual or things that you've done in your life that has kind of fueled your success and you're like, okay, keep on doing this. Like this is working. Something personal
Um,
that you do to really make you excel at what you do.
um, Handwritten notes.
Really?
I think people stop doing that. I think if you can get a handwritten note from somebody, I think people receive it very well still. I know when I do, I'm really appreciative of someone taking the time to sit down and write a note out. I mean, it's really I, overall, I mean, just letting people know they're doing a great job. I mean, emails are really great, a text here and there. Trying to stay positive. I think that's one thing too, is uh, the highs are really high and the lows are really low. And I think celebrating the highs and letting people understand, like, hey, I'm with you during the lows is really important.
Hmm.
And then I just think from an organizational standpoint, writing down a to-do list every single day. I just started off this conversation letting you know I can do a million different things right now. My head could go in so many directions. So
Yeah.
I think staying on task, staying focused. I'm a big list maker and I love crossing things off.
Yeah. That's good. I've done a lot of research on checklists and how that helps our brain
Hmm.
move forward in lots of other ways. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. One more question before our lightning round. With the rise of like analytics in sports business, how do you balance all the data decisions and then just gut?
Oh man, that is it. I mean, that's the secret sauce. It's art and science, and we've got a lot more science now to back up decisions. I think the gut and the art is through years of experience and really taking the time to get to know your fan base, getting to know your student athletes in this case, and your coaches,
Hmm.
and anything that's unique about your organization or your athletic department. But I think the analytics is so important now. I mean, it helps with expedited decisions. Like I said, a lot of the decisions you're making are very quick. And now with business strategy being such a big part of sports, it's not only on the business side, but on the sporting and athletic side too. It's impossible not to ignore. And just love it. But there's always that human nature, and you understand how to motivate people and get the most out of certain situations. And
Hmm.
sometimes you can take calculated risk too, and that's where the art comes into play.
Nice. We got about a minute left. All
Okay.
right. So as quickly as you can, do you have any walk-up music?
Sure shot, Beastie Boys.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Unplugged activity.
Going to my kids' sporting events, just hanging out with my kids. Boring,
Okay.
but the best.
All right. What's your go-to snack when you're just watching the teams play?
I love goldfish.
Any kind? Just the
a-
cheddar. Okay. Do you find starting a project or finishing one more gratifying?
Starting it for sure. I think with everything going on, it's hard to get started. And once I get started, I'm good to go.
Okay.
It's starting and making the time to start it.
All right. If you were not in sports, what job would you have?
I would be an attorney. Yeah, I
Okay.
would. Yeah.
Okay. So what recharges you when you are just getting away from it with your family? You all just to get away. I know there's no off season, but
Yeah.
you pick
I think
your off season.
my wife has gotten us onto a national parks kick. So we're one of those families that wants to check off every single national park. And we've done a decent amount the last year or so. So we're on a good pace right now for that. It's been a lot of fun.
Have you been to Yosemite?
We haven't been to Yosemite yet. We did Death Valley. We did Joshua Tree, not part of California. We
Yeah,
did
that's
Acadia in Maine.
mm-hmm.
It's amazing. That was my
Yeah.
favorite so far.
Yeah, I'd like to go there. I've been to
It's beautiful.
Yosemite and some of those in Utah, which are really nice.
Yeah, we got to get back out there and do those. We've hit a decent amount on the East Coast, but it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thanks for your time today. Thanks for being on the show and sharing some of your wisdom, some of your stories, and some of the fun that you've had along the way.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's great connecting with you again, and appreciate you giving me the time, and good luck with everything y'all have got going on. And Go Terps.
Fear the turtle. Sounds good.
See you, Nick.
Thanks. That wraps up today's episode of Side Story Sports. A huge thanks to Joe LaBue, Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Revenue Officer for the University of Maryland. I appreciate him sharing his journey from his ticket sales to leading at the highest levels and reminding us that leadership is about people first. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow, leave a review, and share it with a friend who loves sports, but also cares about the story behind the box score. We'll be back another time for another behind-the-scenes side story in sports. Until then, remember, sometimes the most interesting play happens off the field. Till next time, enjoy the day.